First we have The Adolescent. This is what I'm currently reading. If you're looking to get into poetry, this is a great place to start. These Shakespeares are so slippery. Now on to my favorite author. First we have Dead Souls by Nikolai Gogol. This is currently my little TBR stack. Hey guys, it's Caitlin. Welcome to my channel. For today's video, I'm going to be showing you every single book I own. I was actually asked to do a bookshelf tour a few months ago, but unfortunately I don't have bookshelves. I kind of just keep my books in really just two places in my house, and you're gonna see that my books are definitely outgrowing their spaces, so hopefully I'll have bookshelves at some point soon, but that's not the case currently. I'm gonna keep this intro short because I have a feeling this is gonna be a long video. Grab a drink, grab a snack, and let's just talk about some books. The first place I keep my books is in and on this little table in my living room. I've had it since college and its sole purpose is to hold my books. So on top I have my current TBR, and then inside the table there's just a bunch of random books. There's no rhyme or reason to these. So I thought it would be fun just to show you every single book I own. I'm not gonna talk in depth about all of them, but I thought I'd show them to you guys. So this is currently my little TBR stack. I have it on this table because it simply won't fit anywhere else. So the first book I have is On Human Slaughter by Elizabeth Bruenig. This is a collection of essays on the death penalty, and I actually already read this one. Next we have Bleak House by Charles Dickens. I have not read this yet, as you can tell by the spine. Then we have If on a Winter's Night a Traveler by Italo Calvino in this gorgeous Mariner Classics edition. Lastly, we have Beartown by Frederick Bachman. That's it for my TBR. Next, I have a giant book stack sitting in the table. Originally, it was just that all the book colors matched, like they were all black, red, or white. But now it's just kind of whatever fits. So I'm just gonna like take all these out of the table so they're easy to show you. So one second. The first two books that I had on this side were Othello by Shakespeare. This is one of my favorite Shakespeare plays, like top two for sure. Next I have The Greatest Short Stories of Leo Tolstoy. I haven't read this yet, but she's a big one, so not sure when I'll get to it. Now I'm going to the books that were in the table. So first we have Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut, In Cold Blood by Truman Capote, Virginia Woolf, Mrs. Dalloway, also in the gorgeous Mariner Classics edition. I love these so much. Heart of a Dog by Mikhail Bulgakov, Slouching Towards Bethlehem by Joan Didion. I read this like 100 years ago. I really need to do a reread because I don't think I appreciated it like I would now. Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy, one of my favorite books of all time. If you've been thinking about reading this, but maybe are intimidated because it's a Russian or because it's really long, don't be. It will be one of the best decisions you ever make. As You Like It by Shakespeare. This was also really good. If you don't want a tragedy, if you want something lighter, that is perfect. Bright Dead Things by Ada Limon. This was a poetry collection. It was okay. I didn't really care for it, to be honest. The Sun Also Rises by Ernest Hemingway. Random one, The Book of Enoch. This is by R.H. Charles, and this is a religious book. My brother actually recommended this to me, but I haven't read it yet. Next we have Titus Andronicus, also by Shakespeare. I really think about how this was performed in the 1600s in England and how this was perceived, because even now, just reading it, it was so horrible. I don't know how this went over back then. If you've read this and had those same thoughts, let me know, because this was actually crazy. The Complete Poems of Walt Whitman. I started this, didn't get very far. Maybe next year. Ovid's Metamorphoses. This took me forever and ever and ever to read, but it was so worth it. Letters from a Stoic by Seneca. The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. The Gulag Archipelago by Alexander Solzhenitsyn, another book I've been saying I'm gonna read forever and still haven't. Tales from Russian Folklore by Alexander Afanasiev. Haven't read this. I picked it up this summer. I saw it in just a random bookshop and I thought it would be cute. Letters to a Young Poet by Rilke. Autobiography of Red by Anne Carson. And lastly for this stack, Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. So that's it for this little table. Now we're gonna move into my room where I have the majority of my books. My nightstand definitely houses the majority of my books. So on top, it's mostly my Russians and then a few special editions that I want to keep looking nice. I don't want to just shove them into the nightstand or put them anywhere, so they're also just on top of the nightstand for now. And then inside of my nightstand, it used to be a place to put the books that I've read, but now it's just whatever fits. And you can't really tell, but there's actually a second row behind the first row of books. So I'm just gonna take all of these out and show you them one by one. Oh no, these Shakespeares are so slippery. Got the last stack of books. Actually, I'm going to arrange these really quick just so they have some sort of order and go together. I bet it would have been nice if I actually put my camera at an angle where you could see what I was doing, but I didn't. I'm first gonna start with my New York review books. The first one I have is Contempt by Alberto Moravia. This was okay. The book itself is a really fun yellow. That's such a great description, Caitlin. This was okay. Honestly, probably wouldn't recommend. This next one though, so good. White Walls short story collection from Tatiana Tolstaya. And yes, she is related to Leo Tolstoy. I think she's like the great grandniece or something. But this was really good. Also, this cover, so cute. The little like pinky mauve, adorable. I highly recommend reading some of her short stories. I don't think you need to read all of them, and I don't think it would be good to read them all consecutively. But her two stories, Most Beloved and Ockerville River, highly recommend. I think you could just find them online for free, to be honest. Next, we're gonna go into my poetry. So the first poetry book I have is The Complete Poems of Anne Sexton. I actually read this whole thing probably 3 or 4 years ago at this point, and I definitely didn't appreciate it like I would now, so I kind of want to reread some of it at some point. I don't think I'll be reading all this, but who knows? This is Mary Oliver Devotions. This is a collection of poems she selected herself. Literally, look at all these tabs. There's a tab on like every single page. I love her. If you're looking to get into poetry, this is a great place to start. She really just makes you appreciate every single little thing in life. Next, I have Bluets by Maggie Nelson. Didn't care for this. Crush by Richard Sykin. This was really good, but it covers some heavy topics. So if you're looking for something light, this isn't it. This is my newest poetry collection. I haven't read any of it yet. It's Czesław Milosz's Selected and Last Poems. I did buy it because it is really cute, but I also bought it because I haven't been vibing with any poetry that I have recently, and I thought some Eastern European poetry would hit. Next, I'm gonna move on to my plays. So first I have A Doll's House by Henrik Ibsen. I read this earlier this year. I really, really recommend Pillars of the Community. Is that what it's called? Yeah, Pillars of the Community. It's the first play in here. So good. Next, we're gonna just move into all of my Shakespeare's. First, I have The Winter's Tale. This is also in my top 3. Love it, love it, love it. You don't need to read it in the winter. That's not what it's about. Coriolanus, King Lear, The Merchant of Venice, Macbeth. This is also in my top 3. So, so, so good. And maybe like the best place to start with Shakespeare, maybe that or Romeo and Juliet. I don't know. Julius Caesar, I read this year, and of course I read it in March. The Tempest, A Midsummer Night's Dream, Hamlet, and Much Ado About Nothing. I also want to point out that these are all Folger editions, and I really like these because I don't know if you could see, but one page is the play and then the other page is just a bunch of notes to help you read. It'll usually give a note if like there's a word that isn't commonly used anymore, and it'll give the definition. And also at the beginning of each act, there's a little summary of what happens. So it's just a way to like guide your reading if you're not familiar with language from Shakespeare's time, which I think is really cool. And next we're going to talk about the two random books I have that really don't make sense. First I have The Highly Sensitive Person. This is by Elaine and Aaron. I am a highly sensitive person. Have I read this? No. Next I have The Best Worst Christmas Pageant Ever. I read this in elementary school and it's just like one of those things I really remember from my childhood, so I try to read this every Christmas. I'm actually gonna add this to my TBR pile. I forgot about it, I won't lie. Oh, speaking of books I forgot about, hold please. I took these two books out because I'm gonna donate them. I don't like the editions and I'd rather get vintage classics. So that is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, as well as Emma by Jane Austen. So I'm gonna just put these in one of those little libraries. But with that, I guess we'll move into classics. I feel like all of these are classics depending on how you categorize modern classics, but I'm just gonna show you what I have. And this is my video, so this is what I think. First, I have Nostalgia by Mircea Cărtărescu. This was so good, so fun, so dark. This was my first Romanian piece of literature. It is one of the Penguin modern classics. Isn't it so cute? This little character thing reminds me of Foster's Home from Imaginary Friends. Don't you agree? It's the truth. First Love and Other Stories by Ivan Turgenev. This story and this cover, I can't. Alexander Pushkin's Evgeny Onegin. 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I did not like this at all. I could appreciate the writing and the quality, but I don't know why that book gets so hyped. I really don't. Next, I have two Toni Morrisons. I have Sula and The Bluest Eye. I read both of these this year. I really loved both of them. Toni Morrison is becoming a favorite author of mine. I will admit, I like Sula a bit better. I'm not sure where to go from here. I'm thinking Beloved or Jazz. Let me know what you think. Tell me what I should read. Next, I have some Brontes. I have Jane Eyre. This was phenomenal. Absolutely loved it. Wuthering Heights, also loved this. I really want to reread it because I read it maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and I think I could get a lot more out of it right now. Franny and Zoe in this gorgeous edition. I'll be honest, I didn't plan on reading it, but I saw this copy at Barnes and I had to buy it. And I really liked it. I will admit I liked Franny's story more than Zoe's, but they were both good, and I'm looking forward to reading more Salinger in the future. That's the only thing I've read by him. Next, I have some Edith Whartons. I have The Age of Innocence, and then I have Summer and Ethan Frome. So I've read The Age of Innocence and Ethan Frome. Haven't read Summer yet, maybe next year. Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. This was really good. Cat's Cradle by Kurt Vonnegut. I think I'm gonna read Breakfast of Champions next. Let me know if you think that would be a good next book by him. I read this and Slaughterhouse-Five so far. Thank You Jeeves by P.G. Wodehouse. I discovered Wodehouse this summer. This was so just like random and fun. I really look forward to reading him in the future. Then I have The Waves by Virginia Woolf. I also read this summer. My gosh, this book. Go read it. Goethe's Faust, East of Eden by John Steinbeck. I haven't read this year, but I'm really hoping to get to it in 2025. Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead by Olga Tokarczuk. Loved this. Such an interesting story and such interesting characters. And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. The Secret History by Donna Tartt. Also haven't read this yet, and I feel like the season to read it already passed, although I really wanted to get to it this year, so I don't know. Maybe I'll just I'll just pick it up and start reading it. Atonement by Ian McGowan. The Kite Runner by Khalid Hosseini. This was also really good. Less by Andrew Sean Greer. By Grand Central Station, I Sat Down and Wept by Elizabeth Smart. I'll be so honest, I did not care for this. I thought this was so dramatic and for no reason. And I'm a dramatic person, but I cannot get into this. And Night Shift by Stephen King. This is a collection of his short stories and I thought this was so fun. I bought this because I wanted to read Children of the Corn. That's actually my favorite Halloween movie. But this was so fun. All the stories seemed really different, which is nice in a short story collection because sometimes things can get repetitive. But this was really great and I hope to read some more Stephen King soon. So that's it for the bottom shelf in my nightstand. Now let's tackle the top. Here we have the top of my nightstand and first we have The Adolescent. This is what I'm currently reading. I'm about halfway done and I love it. I absolutely love it so far. Then moving over here, first I have this little Le Labo piece of paper. I usually use this as a bookmark. So first I have Solaris by Stanislaw Lem. This is the first sci-fi I've read in so long, maybe ever, and it's made me want to read a lot more sci-fi. Next I have two vintage classics and they're both Jane Austen. First I have Emma. This has been on my TBR forever. Hopefully a 2025 read. And then I have Sense and Sensibility. Next I have all of my Russians and one that's not like the others. So I'm just gonna quickly go through these. I talk about these books most on my channel, so I feel like I don't need to go super in depth on them. I definitely read the most off of this little book stack. I think there are only 4 that I haven't read. So I'm just gonna get into showing them to you guys. First, I have A Bad Business by Dostoevsky. This is such a fun little Pushkin Press edition. My favorite short story in here is The Crocodile. Next, I have Chekhov's Plays. Ivanov is my favorite. Highly recommend. Also, Chekhov's writing is so accessible. Next is The Captain's Daughters and Other Stories by Pushkin. Now on to my favorite author. First, we have Dead Souls by Nikolai Gogol, the collected tales of Nikolai Gogol. If you want to get into Gogol, I recommend you start here. Taras Bulba, the Penguin Classics edition of his short stories. I got this one because it also includes his play, The Government Inspector. Nausea by Jean-Paul Sartre. This is not a Russian author, but this is one of my favorite books of all time and it just deserves a place on the nightstand. Now we're getting into all of my Dostoevskys. I'd recommend this one the least. The stories are not very memorable for me. Nitochka Nezvanova. This is my newest Dostoevsky. I've actually never seen this before, but I went to Barnes & Noble the other day and I saw it, so I had to buy it. The Village of Stepanchikovo. Also haven't read this yet, but I'm hoping to early next year. White Nights. Notes from a Dead House. The Double and the Gambler. Next is Crime and Punishment. This is definitely my favorite Dostoevsky, and I think it's gonna remain the favorite. The only one I think that could rival this is The Brothers Karamazov, but I haven't read it yet. The Idiot. Demons by Dostoevsky. This is my second favorite, and I think you can tell by the way it looks. Last but not least, we have War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. I haven't read this yet and I can barely hold it up right now, so I'm just gonna put it down. Okay guys, that is it for, I don't even know what I'm gonna call this video. Book tour, showing you every book I own, the little book corners in my house. That is it for this video. Let me know in the comments if you saw any of your favorite books, and let me know if there are any books that are your favorite that I don't have and absolutely need to add to my collection. I'd love to know. I'm always looking for a reason to buy more books and read more books. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.